We are learning more about the death of an inmate at the Augusta State Medical Prison. Deputies say 29-year-old Shannon Greer was stabbed multiple times with a homemade knife after getting into a fight with another inmate. Greer was serving a 25-year sentence for aggravated child molestation and aggravated sodomy from Fulton County. Tonight, we spoke to someone on the inside with some inside information. He's talking only to News 12's Christy Etheridge because he's worried this could happen again.
I'm in Augusta, Georgia, in Augusta State Medical Prison.
A voice from a source on the inside after a weekend homicide. He's too scared to tell you his name, but there are some things he wants you to know before someone else gets hurt. He believes the prison is trying to cover up what really happened Sunday, just before breakfast.
They hit the button for child call for breakfast, which was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and the dude that came in, he walked in, and the door was popped that he went into to where Shannon Greer was in the room sleeping.
Deputies say another inmate stabbed this man multiple times with a homemade knife after they got into a fight.
How easy is it to bring in a weapon or a knife or create a homemade weapon?
Oh, it's easy. You have to have a knife to be able to survive in here.
But most of the time, it's not the kind of knife you buy at the store. And he says it's not difficult to be resourceful when making your own.
Any kind of little metal you can get metal. People can break the metal off their bins. They just replaced all the lockers. They put heavy-duty lockers that you can't break because people were breaking that down and making homemade knives.
But how he says the other inmate got to Greer is even more concerning. He says when guys come back to their cell and call for officers to open the door, some officers don't follow protocol and check IDs to make sure it's the right guy going into the right cell.
When you come back from trial, you just holler, hey, 116, 223, and in the booth, they got to pop the button to let you in. But if they don't know that you don't live in that room and you just holler that out, then they'll pop the door. And that's how people get stabbed while they're sleeping.
He says the new warden is improving security, and after getting a call from someone on the inside, he was the first person we called tonight.
With News 12, I'm calling for the warden.
We're still waiting to hear back. Meanwhile, our source on the inside waits in fear for something to be done. Again, I tried to get in touch with the warden tonight. As soon as I got off the phone with my source on the inside, I first spoke to a secretary and then to a lieutenant who said he would get the message to the warden as soon as possible.
And Christy, we're hoping the warden can shed some light on all of this. These are some very serious allegations.
They are.
Still no official word, though, about the suspect in Sunday's stabbing. So far, all deputies will confirm is that he's an inmate.
That's right. No word yet on even his name or even his charges, but GBI agents say they are meeting with District Attorney Ashley Wright's office to talk about it all, and we'll let you know when they make any decisions.
All right. Thanks for that update, Christy. Right now, there are more questions than answers about the death of an inmate at the Augusta State Medical Prison. Last week, the coroner confirmed 29-year-old Shannon Greer had been stabbed to death, but sources on the inside told us there's a lot more to it, so we kept digging. In a story you'll see only on News 12, Christy Etheridge continues our investigation with new information from Shannon's own mother.
In a candid interview, Leisha Givens talks about her son's molestation charges and admits she's still searching for the truth about his death. But recent conversations with her son and calls from other inmates, she's slowly putting the pieces together, and so are we.
They were supposed to protect him. They were supposed to keep him safe, and they didn't. They failed him.
Words from a grieving mother sinking in after her son was killed in prison. Most of the information not from the warden, but from other inmates who called her.
That's when I initially found out he really had got stabbed up. It said that he was stabbed multiple times.
Her son was serving a 25-year sentence for aggravated child molestation and aggravated sodomy charges. But his mother says that's still no excuse to be killed.
Some people might say, they're not very sympathetic to your son simply because he was imprisoned for some very serious charges. What would you say?
I would say this is not about his charges. This is about somebody took his life. He didn't take nobody's life.
She says Shannon was in a relationship with another inmate at the prison and had even talked to that other inmate over the phone.
Had called me on several different times crying to try to get me to convince Shannon to get back with him or to stick with him.
Givens says she thought nothing of it until her son called her, afraid.
Say, if he can't have him, nobody will.
Now she wonders what went wrong that left her son dead. Last week, News 12 also got calls from sources inside the prison, claiming sometimes procedures are not followed when it comes to opening cell doors.
When you come up from trial, you just holler, hey, 116, 223, and in the booth, they got to pop the button to let you in. But if they don't know that you don't live in that room and you just holler that out, then they'll pop that door. And that's how people get stabbed while they're sleeping.
And what would you say to those people that hold this hard and fast opinion that it was deserved?
Wait till it's close at home. You wouldn't feel that way.
Both the GBI and the Department of Corrections are investigating the death as a homicide. So far, no one has been arrested yet. Sources inside the prison told us Greer was sleeping when he was stabbed. His mother has heard the same thing. We've tried multiple times to get any of the multiple agencies involved in the investigation to comment about this. Each time they say it's an open investigation and they cannot release that information.
Details tonight in the murder investigation at a local prison. A week and a half after inmate Shannon Greer was stabbed to death in his cell, the GBI finally names another inmate, Tyrel Campbell, as the suspect for his murder. News 12's Christy Etheridge sat down with a special agent investigating the case to find out why it took so long.
Pieces are finally starting to fall into place about what happened the morning of June 29th at Augusta State Medical Prison.
They were leaving and going to breakfast. Tyrel Campbell, who was an inmate there, went into the cell where Shannon Levi Greer was sleeping and attacked him.
A slight deviation from earlier information from the GBI saying Greer had been killed after a fight with another inmate. Last week, a source inside the prison and Greer's own mother told us otherwise. Today, the GBI confirms what we've heard all along, that Shannon was asleep in his cell when he was killed. Agents also confirmed the fight wasn't a physical one.
I can't confirm or deny that they were in a relationship.
But Shannon's mother tells News 12 they were.
The same person, Tyrel Campbell, a.k.a. Ray Ray, had called me on several different times crying to try to get me to convince Shannon to get back with him or to stick with him.
They done been fighting before, and, and all that, and they separated them from dorms. And then they put them back in the same dorm again, but separated them from sides.
The coroner says Shannon was stabbed multiple times with a homemade knife. The GBI says they have that knife and are testing it as evidence.
The term that they use in prison is called a shank, and they will make these things out of anything that they can get their hands on.
Do we know how many times he was stabbed?
I know it's more than 10.
At least 10 stab wounds to the torso and neck. 11 days later, a warrant for Campbell.
Why did it take so long to make an arrest?
The county line splits the actual building that we were in right down the middle. So that's one thing. It took us a couple of days.
Now they finally determined that the crime happened in Columbia County. Campbell has been transferred to another prison in the state for now and actually hasn't even been formally arrested for this one yet. They hope to bring him back to Columbia County next week sometime. Until then, he will continue serving his current 20-year sentence for armed robbery and aggravated assault.
Christy, back to the 11 days for the warrant. I guess they could take their time on this since the suspect was technically already locked up, right?
Right, Meredith. This case was a little bit different in the sense that no one was, quote unquote, on the loose or roaming the streets. Everyone they needed to talk to was already incarcerated.
All right, thanks for staying on top of this for us, Christy.